BlogTalk Radio.
Welcome to the AME Food Testing Show. Today's topic, selecting a third-party laboratory for food testing with Gillian Dagan, Ph.D. As the Chief Science Officer of ABC Research Laboratories, Dr. Dagan serves as a technical resource to clients in all matters of food safety and quality. Dr. Dagan leads the scientific efforts of the company, managing developments as well as scientific partnerships for research and discovery. She maintains scientific integrity in existing and new endeavors, as well as serves as a resource of valid scientific information for ABCRL Laboratories and Associates and clients. In August of 2004, Dr. Gillian Dagan joined ABC Research Corporation as Director for Product Performance Services. Under her direction, the department concentrates on product quality evaluation, shelf life studies, ingredient applications, product comparisons, and sensory testing. She enjoys working with all sectors of the food industry, but especially food service. Dr. Dagan brought expertise with in-depth sensory research and quality assurance testing to ABC. She received her Ph.D. in food science from the University of Florida, concentrating in food processing, protein chemistry, and sensory science. She has sensory experience for a number of sectors in the food industry and is a trained tasker for a number of products and commodities. Welcome with me, Dr. Dagan. Dr. Dagan?
Hi, Andy.
Are you there?
Hi. I'm here.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, it's great to have you. I'd like to ask you to update us on any of your current activities after reading your biography.
Sure. We're just keeping busy at the lab. We're excited about 2013. We're hopefully going to see a lot of different regulations be posted that I think we all have been waited with bated breath to see how the FDA will handle. Produce safety rules hopefully will come into completion, more parts of FSMA, and looking forward to the restaurant menu labeling regulation as well. So I think 2013 is going to be an exciting year for food safety.
Excellent. Let's start off with our topic. What is a third-party lab?
A third-party lab is a service provider to the food industry, and as a third-party lab, ABC Research functions as a service provider in the fact that some folks will not choose to have an in-house lab just because they may not have the ability to house the equipment, to train the personnel, or they choose to outsource laboratory functions based on liability that they may assume if they did it themselves. So we provide all different types of testing to food processors, growers, restaurant chains, anybody in the food service supply chain. And those tests are varied depending on the user. So it might be a microbiological or a chemical test.
Excellent. What types of food tests are available with a third-party lab generally?
Generally, third-party labs concentrate on some of the more sophisticated testing. We do provide very basic testing like indicator organisms, so like a total plate count or a total coliform count or a yeast and mold count, or simple chemistry tests like a pH or a water activity. But I think a really good use for a third-party lab is to provide those sophisticated testing services that are difficult for someone to handle in-house, maybe because of equipment or training needs of their or lack thereof of their scientists. So we provide things like antibiotic residue testing, pesticide residue testing. We provide full nutritional analysis, either by wet chemistry or by database means. On the microbiological side, we provide challenge studies or process authority letters, shelf life studies. So a lot more of the sophisticated testing that may be difficult for some folks to handle in-house. In addition, when you talk about a third-party lab, some labs just do microbiological work, some just do chemistry work. We're a full-service lab, which means we do micro, we do chemistry, and we say we do everything in between. And that everything in between could be food tests that are concentrated on sensory science. So looking at acceptability from a consumer standpoint of taste or aroma. We might be looking at an off flavor caused by packaging or an off flavor that develops in a food. So we do a lot of different kind of projects that are interesting with food packaging. So we pretty much say we test food and then we test anything that has to do with the food. So you might eat with it. It might be a utensil. You might store the food in it. It might be a home use container. You might cook the food in it. We even do appliance testing. So we are truly a full-service laboratory.
Very good. As I look and consider our listenership, the main question they may have is, what is the selection criterion that I would use in selecting a third-party lab?
That's a great question. There are several food labs out there to choose from if you're in need of testing services. So whether you're going to outsource all of your testing or even a portion of it to a third-party lab, there are several things to consider. We actually have this posted on our website under our resources tab, so people can kind of read about the different things that we would ask of a partner lab, and we would hope that people would ask us and also ask our competition. So just to hit some of the high points for that, logistics. So how are you going to get that sample to the lab? You know, is the lab going to work with you on shipping? Is there a courier service? Can that lab provide sampling? You know, if you have 30 different blueberry farms that you grow blueberries at, and you start in Florida and you work your way all the way up the eastern seaboard into Canada, you know, you may be sending product from a variety of locales. You know, how is the lab going to work with you to either send somebody out in the field to sample that product or work with you for local growers to send the product in? So, you know, logistics is a very, very big part of what we do. Secondarily, I would definitely ask a third-party lab about methodology. You know, if they're using approved methods, that is a best practice. There are some labs out there that will use some kind of black box techniques that have not gone through, let's say, an AOAC approval, or that do not follow the FDA bacterial analytical manual or the USDA MLG. I would definitely shy away from those. Any lab that's worth their salt is going to share their method references with you and should be able to talk you through exactly how they would handle any type of sample prep, any type of sample storage, testing, how they optimize their methods, you know, what their detection limit is. It should be a very, very open conversation between you and your lab. They should be very happy to disclose any of their methods to you. Another one to consider is, you know, whether you're outsourcing a portion of your testing or you're outsourcing all of your testing. It's very important to ask the lab what type of analyses they can handle. You know, we just talked a little bit about full-service labs. I know if I was a quality assurance manager and I had to make a decision about who I was going to send my samples to, I would definitely want to make sure I only had to send them to one place. So even if you have some very unique tests that you need run, ask the lab if they can handle it. I know I'd only want to ship to one place if I had my druthers. So it's an important one to consider. Going along with the methodology concerns, you definitely also want to ask your lab about accreditations. ISO 17025 is the epitome, is the highest laboratory accreditation a food lab can hold. We're ISO accredited, and for what that means for ABC Research is that we undergo a very thorough audit at least every other year, if not more often, of our quality assurance system. So it's a way that we can illustrate to our clients and prospective clients that they're going to get accurate and precise data, and that we have record-keeping procedures in place to assure that. In addition, that we're using methods that are approved, and that we really have to be held to this higher standard in all of our practices, and that means sample prep, that means sample analysis, data processing, and even record keeping and data and sample storage. So having an ISO 17025 accredited lab, that would be very important to me. And a little caveat to be aware of with the ISO accreditation, I would ask to see a lab's ISO scope. And what that scope entails, a scope would be probably a couple of pages long. They may have a microbiological scope and a chemical scope. And what those scopes list is all the different methods under which they've undergone an audit. So although a lab may be ISO accredited, they may not have every single thing they do on that ISO scope. So if there's something that's very important to you, for instance, if you're a fruits and vegetables processor and you're looking at global GAP certification, you want to make sure that on that lab's ISO scope it says pesticides in foods or something close to that. You know, if you're looking at running nutritional analyses because you need to do NLEA retail labels for the back of your food product, I would definitely confirm that every single analysis on that the lab's going to perform to complete that nutritional facts panel is on their ISO scope. So it takes a little bit of digging, but any lab should definitely be willing to share their accreditation paperwork with you, and it should be a pride thing on their side and an easy fact-finding mission on the client side.
Dr. Dagan, those are
Sure.
excellent suggestions. What about the end user, the person who's sending the samples to the lab, actually getting a tour of the lab? Is that possible?
Yeah, we welcome visitors. It's not often that people get to go and tour different labs. I don't think that they make that choice, but if they have the desire to, we have a very open door policy. We just have somebody sign a non-disclosure agreement when they come in, because they may see some of our clients, food being tested, and we are a confidential lab, but we are happy to have people walk through and see exactly how we do things. So we actually love it when people visit. We really do.
Very good. Do you have any other suggestions for potential clients?
Sure. Depending on your locale and depending on your staff, you may want to ask if your lab can provide guidance in languages other than English. That becomes more and more and more important, I think, as we become much more of a global society. In addition, ask to see the certificate of analysis. Does it make sense the way it's laid out? Is it going to make sense to your buyers that you're going to share your certificate of analysis with? Make sure it looks the way you want it to look. And make sure you can talk to your lab without the meter running. That's not true in all cases. And I know sometimes people know they need testing and they know that they want to have a tip-top food safety program, but they really need the consultation on how to do that. We work for thousands of companies. We've seen every quality assurance plan out there. And although we're a confidential lab, we can still use all of our experience and all of our knowledge to help folks build a very, very robust testing program. And I think it's that kind of free advice that really, for our clients, is so valuable. So, having open communication, being able to call and actually get a scientist on the phone in an expedient manner is really one of those things that I think sets some labs apart from their competition.
Very good. Dr. Dagan, what are the common challenges that food production, food quality, food safety, and food security managers have with third-party labs?
I would probably say one of the biggest challenges is probably turnaround time. I know that all of our lives move so fast, and it's not uncommon to have your boss come into your office and say, I need this tested yesterday. So I think for a lot of people in positions like that is understanding, how a lab schedule is set up and what's possible as far as turnaround time. In the case of a microbiological test, a lot of the turnaround time is based on the actual incubation time of the sample, and that's not something that any of us can rush, unfortunately. So you just want to make sure that your lab starts that analysis the day that sample shows up. That it doesn't go into the fridge, that it doesn't get scheduled to start the next day, but that it started immediately, and that your lab is maximizing the time, that they have with the sample and minimizing how long you have to wait. For chemical analyses, a lot of things can be rushed to accommodate, needing to know the answer in a very, very short amount of time. But just understanding, probably the biggest challenge is just giving somebody a heads up and letting them know that a sample is going to be coming in and really asking what's available as far as the lab being accommodating to those timing schedules.
Very good. Those sound like very concrete suggestions on how to interface with your chosen third-party lab. Let me ask you another question. In your opinion, should food testing be increased generally as a result of FSMA enforcement?
I think one of the increases we will see, I don't think it'll be a large increase, will definitely be the necessity of having a environmental sampling plan in place. I think that has been a trend for years. I think a lot of people who are selling to the big retailers like the Walmarts, McDonald's, already are required to do things like having an environmental sampling plan. But for the smaller guys out there, FSMA requiring that, I think will bring up some testing needs that these processors have not faced in the past. And some questions, how do I set up a plan? What kind of supplies do I need? How much is this going to cost? All of that. So I think that will show up as an increase in testing. Additional testing in FSMA, I'm not quite sure we will see too much of an increase on the imported food side if and when the programs for voluntary qualified importer come through and start to be active. That may allow some of the import testing to go down a bit, but it's going to take a lot of hoops for the brokers and the importers to jump through. So I think some of the more sophisticated players may be able to get the most out of those programs in FSMA, but overall I think we will see a small amount with FSMA, and I think some of the other regulations that we talked about at the beginning of the program, like produce safety, menu labeling, I think overall in the next year there will definitely be increases because of those two regulations.
Do you see any allergen-type tests being more required as a result of FSMA?
We've seen a general increase in allergen testing over the last 5 years. Definitely gluten coming up to speed has been very, very popular. I think that not just processors, but also retailers, so grocery stores, restaurants, allergens are becoming a very, very big concern to them, a big concern in hospitality, theme parks, hotels. So we've actually already seen an increase in a lot of allergen testing and allergen advisement that we give our clients. I doubt that will shrink under FSMA, that's for sure.
Do you see any increase in the increase of testing for pesticides or any other types of long-chain carbon-type contaminants in food?
As far as pesticide residue testing goes, we do see a significant amount of pesticide residue being tested on imported foods. There are a number of pesticides that have been outlawed in the U.S. for years that unfortunately are still used in other countries that we import from. So that definitely is a hot button for the FDA and is covered under the imported foods part of FSMA. In addition, kind of following with FSMA, but maybe not directly related to it, the USDA National Organic Program, in November just put out that guidance for announcing that 5% of all certified organic processors are going to face testing as well, and part of that testing will be pesticide residues. So I definitely think even with our domestic processors, we will see an increase in pesticide testing over this next couple of years. A lot of the long chain, like the PAHs and stuff that we've seen associated with oil spills, we've actually seen that testing go down, obviously over time since the last oil spill. Antibiotic residue is another big one that we do. We do a lot of antibiotic residue testing. I don't think that is going to decrease anytime soon with the amount of seafood that we import from different parts of the world. And looking at the import alert system, FDA still has very, very big concerns over some countries and some commodities and their use of antibiotics. So I don't think that'll decrease either.
Well, Dr. Dagan, for the majority of the listeners today, I think that there's going to be a growing concern if you could address the potentiality for product testing for bacterial contamination, primarily E. coli, Salmonella, Listeria. Can you address that issue?
Sure. Just an increased need to test for microbial contaminants. Is that where you want me to address?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I understood. I definitely think, especially as we become such a media-driven society, outbreaks and of food contamination, food-borne illness outbreaks are definitely much more well-known than they used to be by the general populace. I think that being a driver, definitely to retailers and to processors, equates to the safety of their brand and their brand name in the marketplace. I think that is definitely a big concern for all involved in our food chain. We see probably more finished product testing than we used to, and I believe that is probably a lot driven a lot by the buyers. So if somebody is producing, let's say, bagged spinach for consumption and they're selling to one of the big chain stores, that big chain store with their buying power has the ability to request certain tests to be run, and a lot of that ends up being finished product testing based on the size of the lot or how often they buy the food product. So pathogen testing for sure has its place, and I don't think we're going to see that decrease anytime soon. As far as turnaround time, everybody is always looking for the absolute fastest pathogen tests out there so they can release product. That's one of the biggest concerns from a processor side is they're sitting on inventory that has is perishable and has a limited shelf life. How fast can I release my product? So looking for new methods out there. But again, the importance and the delicate nature of those results and what they can mean, to somebody who eats the tainted product and to that company's, brand image, I would definitely not risk that testing with anyone that didn't fully disclose methods, fully disclose exactly how they were testing my product, so I had full confidence that the results I were getting were as robust as possible.
Excellent considerations. Are there any other considerations that food production, food quality, food safety, and food security managers should be calculating into their selection of a third-party lab?
I would say the last thing probably to think about is accessibility of your data. So it's one thing to send a sample to a lab, have them run the test, remit back a report, but how easily can you get at that data? You know, let's say it's midnight on a Saturday and all of a sudden you have an issue where you need to go back and you need to look at historical data on your products. That's one of the things we're such a fast-paced, mobile workplace nowadays that accessibility of data should be of the utmost concern. So making sure that you can go online and access data that you own, you've paid for it. It's your data. It should be available to you at any time. And secondarily, being able to ask a question about that data. Sometimes we have clients that know that they need to test for a certain analyte or a certain microbe because, let's say, a buyer asked them to do it, but they may not have the background to really know what the results mean. So, you know, we talk a lot about, at ABC Research, we talk a lot about, you know, generating data, but are we generating usable data? Well, it becomes usable when you can educate the end user on what the numbers, what the units, what the testing method actually means. So a lot of our job is really advising on the front end of what to test for and then advising on the back end of what the test results mean. Doing the testing, that's the easy part. So.
Dr. Dagan, you have given us an excellent summary of our interchange with third-party labs. I'd now like to invite you to conclude your remarks by describing the benefits of your particular facility and the changes that you've made personally to make it easier for your clients to interface with you.
Thanks, Andy. As the Chief Scientific Officer for ABC Research Laboratories, we've been open since 1967. We're a very strong business with a foundation in Gainesville, Florida. We have a fantastic team of food scientists, food microbiologists, analytical chemists that really strive to make life easier for our clients. And that statement goes from working with them, whether it's providing training videos on our website in English and in Spanish, whether it's customizing their sample submission form so it makes sense to our clients, all the way to providing sampling of products on farms, in cold storage facilities, out of retail outlets all over the U.S., and really concentrating on having the best equipment, the best group of people all in one place. We have some business development folks for our company that say, oh, we got a bunch of smart people back at the lab, and we really do. And the thing is, we not only hire great scientists, we hire great scientists that like to communicate. So advising clients is one of the more enjoyable parts of our job, and really feeling like actually we made somebody's day at work a lot easier. ABC Research Laboratories is a third-party lab. We are a full-service third-party lab accredited under the ISO 17025 accreditation. And we have a wonderful website where you can learn more about the company. That's www.abcr.com. We also have some really good blog posts that we put up that are informative about new regulations, new legislation, new things going on in the food industry, and also pretty darn entertaining, if I do say so myself. So please visit our website. Please visit our resource center with all kinds of good white papers to download. But yeah, that's what sets ABC apart from its competition. Just we're good people doing good science, and we really like to help our clients.
Well, Dr. Gill, I am very grateful for you to be here, Dr. Dagan, and your contributions to science and to the third-party market. And I'd like you to offer your conclusion summary remarks and sort of review on our top issues as a conclusion. What is a third-party lab? What types of food tests are available? What are the selection criteria? Common challenges? And talk a little bit about FSMA, and then we can wrap up.
Okay, be happy to. So today we talked about third-party labs. A third-party lab is just a service provider to the food industry, and that might be services such as microbiological testing of indicator organisms, pathogens. It could be shelf life determination, or maybe a challenge study or a sanitizer efficacy study. It could be chemistry-based, where we're providing nutritional analysis on food items, pesticide and antibiotic residue analyses. We also provide sensory testing and everything in between. Food labs test not only food, but some of us also test food containers, food appliances. At ABC Research, we say we test food and everything that has to do with the food. Some of the easiest questions to ask when selecting a food lab would be to solicit the ISO paperwork or certification paperwork for the lab, and also ask about client service. How easy is it to get the scientists on the phone? What are some other of the inherent benefits about testing with a lab? Am I going to get free advice on what kind of testing I need? Are you going to explain the results to me after I get the data back? Those are just some of the basic questions that I would ask as a consumer. And then probably one of the biggest challenges in working with a third-party lab is just giving a full explanation of the lab and the client's expectations of turnaround time and how to best work together to get that turnaround time down and as fast as possible for both the lab and the client. And there are definitely some ways where you can work with a lab and have an open line of communication to minimize that turnaround time. Other than that, a good reason to use a third-party lab, there are a couple of good reasons. One would be maybe you're not able to fully outfit your in-house lab with the equipment that's needed or with the personnel with the expertise that's needed to run the tests. But in all cases, no matter how maybe well-funded a food safety effort is at a company, there's always liability that really should lie with the experts. So I know a lot of our clients like to say, we're a meat processor, or we're a vegetable processor, or we're a bakery. We make food. That's what we're specialists at. And you know what? We go to the experts at ABC Research for our food testing. They test all different kinds of food for all different types of tests. They know what they're doing. And by outsourcing that testing, we actually assume a lot of the liability in the situation. So I know I never thought as a food scientist I would grow up and talk to so many lawyers, but I do, and it's a pleasure.
Excellent summary of our discussion points. I'd like to now welcome you again for coming, and thank you for your excellent remarks today. And we'll wish you a good day.
You too, Andy. Thanks a lot.
You bet. Bye now.
Bye.